That is the story, really, of the Caribbean and the Irish presence there. Many were taken through the years when Oliver Cromwell and the New Model Army went into Ireland and captured many Irish people and took them into servitude, into the Caribbean. And not generally what happened in Ireland, what Ireland was like, what was the place in Ireland like, what were the kind of political reasons as to why many of the Irish were taken. In 1641, the British sent over Protestants to Ireland, basically, and the aim was to convert the Irish Catholics to Protestants, to be Protestants. But also there was an arrangement where they had used Ireland to back up their loans, and one of the things they had to do was ensure they had vacant possession of that land, basically in Southern Ireland. So when they went over in 1641, the idea was to clear Ireland, basically, to get rid of the people on that land, but also to convert them.
Key historical differences. And one is the Irish, especially the Catholics, were seen as a threat because of the power of the church, you know, Catholicism and the power.
In 1695, the penal laws came in, and what the British government actually did was went against the Treaty of Limerick, and they started setting restrictions in place on the Catholic religion.
With regard to my understanding of the Irish connection to how we got to be in the Caribbean, is that we were slaves. And
how did Britain get away with a slave trade when it was not authorised in law in this country?
He was asked to fill a ship of 250 slaves, and he could do it in a few hours. He mainly had to just go around, and this is where I grew up, and get them from the highways and byways and fill up the ship. And
how could they do it? There was no law in this country that allowed it to happen. And the only way was to use a loophole. In other words, if you're a slave, you are not a human being, you are chattel.
Some of the African slaves would jump overboard because death might be preferable to this awful suffering. But far fewer of the Irish slaves did that because of their religion.
Whereas the Caribbean slaves were not considered a threat. The slave trade, we were a commodity. Not a threat, we were a commodity. In fact, we weren't even considered a human being. And this is crucial.
Previous landowners who were told, why don't you go to Barbados, you'll be given land there. But often what was awaiting them there was not any reward. It was a harder life.
And then we had lovely Lola, talking very much from the perspective of an African slave and what it was like to be an African slave on the plantation.
A saint of them Irish Catholics, they say he was a slave as well, captured by the Irish before he changed them to his religion, to Christianity.
And I found it very fascinating that this man who was supposed to have been English, taken from a very wealthy background, was taken as a slave to Ireland and was enslaved by the Irish. It's really interesting.
So Patrick felt it was his mission to bring Christianity to the Irish, to bring this kind of religion, to give them hope and say, the Christian religion will set you free. You will have everlasting life, it will set you free.
The only religion the Irish know now is sugar. Sugar, sugar, sugar. Where are we in? We Negroes tired of being whipped, tired of being overworked. There's more of us, we thought. 3 times more when Joe count. So we plan we get our freedom back. Anyway, the master celebrates St. Patrick Day by getting drunk. He drunk most of the time though, but it's official on St. Patrick Day. You're allowed to be drunk on St. Patrick Day. Everybody allowed to be drunk on St. Patrick Day. Even the master's wife allowed to be drunk. And she a mean old woman.
But anyway, so my understanding is that that's how we wound up in the Caribbean, and it always did surprise me how particularly an Irish and a Cork accent is very similar to a Jamaican. How you doing? And Gran? That's the way we talk in Cork, we talk like this and that? Is that the way you talk in Caribbean?